being late. I,
To make it easy for you.
oh, thank you.
Oh, look at that.
And like that.
I do have plenty of pockets.
There you go.
I was just working away like it was another day, so I really apologize. Some people say I have a mind like a steel trap. It's hard to get things in and it's hard to get them out. Anyways, it's a privilege to be here. And I've been sewing since I was 19 years old. And I've enjoyed sewing machines a lot. And I've enjoyed sewing a lot. I'm a vintage guy though. I probably won't go buy a fancy machine in the store anytime soon. And all three of the machines that I've been sewing on, I've been using for about 33 years. And outside of a wood shelf collapsing on my wall and falling on, they've never had any serious injuries. But anyways, I really enjoy working on them. I just want to tell you a quick experience that I had yesterday. A lady came in from Rigby to get a sewing machine from me, and she also brought another one with her, and she had only had it for about 6 months. She had bought it brand new, and it had quit working, and then she took it back to where she had got it, and they told her that the motor on it was not any good anymore. And the first thing I said was, wow, I've never seen a motor go out on a sewing machine in 6 months, even no matter what it was. And it really did happen, and I was really surprised. And one thing I've learned about sewing machines is that there's always different situations. But the factory had never put any lubrication in this machine anywhere, and she had been running it pretty hard for 6 months dry, and it finally just burned the motor up. And so anyways, she stayed in my shop for a little while, did a little sewing on a couple of different machines, and we really enjoyed having some conversations about some of the stuff that she makes. She started making clothing about 3 years ago, and she was showing me some of the pictures of them. And then I was playing a YouTube video of a lady that I follow on YouTube. Her name is Serena, and she's a young Black lady that's extremely talented making clothing, and she does all her own designs and everything, and it's really awesome. It really motivates me to want to be able to help people to sew. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the different simple things that you can do to help out your machines. And some of them will apply to, just vintage machines. Some will apply to any machine. And of course, we all know that we need to check our needle first, right? Before we start throwing blocks at the sewing machine. Put it in the corner for trying out. And well, that still happens to me as well. probably once a week, I'll get in the middle of working on the machine, and I will have forgotten, or maybe I think I know everything, and I won't look to see if the needle is slightly bent, because you really can't see it with your eyes. So sometimes we just have to check that first, and then go through and restring everything. I say string, we should, hopefully you're using thread. But start from square one, before you start throwing rocks at the sewing machine. And then also your needle plate. If you have any burrs in it from those times that you were putting pedal to the metal and maybe something went wrong, and all of a sudden you have a big needle gouge in your needle plate. There's an easy way to take care of that. Just get some, you can get a tape that has like sandpaper on it. And it's really thin, and you can run it through that hole on your needle plate, and it'll get rid of that burr on there. And it'll make a huge difference. Even the slightest little burr on there, especially when you're doing a zigzag or a stretch stitch, it'll foul things up. And I probably do that 10 times a week to machines that come in. And I've actually put a magnifier down by the needle and watched how that burr can catch the thread. And it can change the way that the machine's tension is working. So since it's a real simple fix, you don't always have to go and buy a new needle plate. You can just use an abrasive tape. I plan on bringing all those things with me today. I wanted to go around and you could.
Is that like emery?
Yes,
cloth?
yes,
Is that
it's
what
like
it is?
an emery cloth, just real miniature. Yeah. And you can use a vise, or you can, jerry rig something, we're from Idaho, we can do that. I've had to buy it off of eBay or Amazon. I don't know if you can really buy it or Amazon. It's really small. It's like maybe an 1/8 of an inch at the most. But anyway, that's a really great tip that helps a lot. And then sometimes if you have your thread breaking, it could be getting caught on a burr on that plate. And then your thread can be breaking.
Yes.
And then another one is the hook. And if you have a removable hook, it makes it easy, because the hook can have the exact same thing happen to it that the plate has happened. The needle can hit that hook, and you'll get a burr at the end of that hook, and it'll cut your thread, or the thread will stick in there, and it will cause it to fray. I'm gonna pull my Band-Aid off. I'm tired of it bothering me, should I? Anyways, and so you can buff out that burr on that hook. But on the hook, you don't want to use an abrasive. You want to buff it out with something that's less likely to scratch it. I use a nylon wheel to buff them, but you could use like 500 grit sandpaper would work good. But that hook needs to be perfectly smooth, no marks in it or dings from the needle. The thread will pick it up and it will cut the thread. And it seems like a small thing, but it ends up being a big thing for the operator. And then I'm talking about bottom cases like on more heavyweight machines right now. If you have something that has the old style bottom case that snaps in place, there's also and you know how you run your thread through it to get your tension. Stuff will collect down inside of that, and you can remove that one little screw. That spring still will just come right off there, and you can clean that out right there. And that's another thing that happens a lot, and maybe no one ever checks those. They just think that their bottom case is no good. Oh, it's time for a new bottom case. But everything you're sewing gets a lot of dust, it gets broken threads in it, you get dings from needles, and all these things. An example, a couple of weeks ago, I went to a guy's home. He does custom auto upholstery out of the shop next to his home. And he was asking me if I would do some work on this big industrial machine there on site. And he asked if I would, when I got there, he asked if I was interested in trading the work for these two machines that he's had for several years that he's never used. And so I looked at him and they were meeting there. I was like, yeah, I want to trade those. And he says, that's great. He says, because I don't want them and I really need my machine fixed. So that's what I did. And but he told me, he says, the motors aren't any good in both of these machines. And I says, oh, darn. So I was excited to get into those. One of those I do have for sale right now. They were FAF 260s. And it was the first embroidery machine that FAF ever made in 1960. And they were considered industrial. And they really are, especially in today's standard. But it'll zip through 8 layers of denim like it's nothing. But I got these and I took them apart. And what happens in these older motors is they have an armature in them with copper, and then they have carbon brushes that conduct electricity that touch that copper. And over time, the carbon builds up on there. And then slowly your machine keeps losing its efficiency and power until it'll actually just not hardly run right. But it doesn't mean that the motors don't dead and the sewing machines don't dead. But I do like it when it happens, and I do. Justin?
So what is the biggest problem you see when people bring their machine in that you just think we're dumb? And you're just like, I cannot believe that they think this is broken. I mean, what kind of things do you see that we should check before we bring it in, so we're just not like.
Yeah, well, that's why I talked about the needle plate. Because oftentimes you think that, the tension just not working out on this machine anymore. Because it breaks the thread or it's fraying and hanging it up. And then the book the bottom case. And you gotta remember, the thread's running through something all the time. It's leaving stuff behind. And it all needs to be taken care of from time to time. And what happens with sewing, it did to me, especially when I was doing a lot of upholstery work, I didn't want to fiddle faddle with my machine when I had somebody waiting for stuff, you know. But you do. If the machine's having issues, your job's not going to turn out very good, and you're not going to have near as much fun. And so it's really important to clean things and to pay attention to clean them. And like, for example, where the uptake arm is, many times I have found thread wrapped around inside of there in various different kinds of things. And I always blame it on that there must be little kids running around at home. You know, and the mom's like, I'm gonna go sew, I don't care, I gotta do this. You know, because it's kind of like therapy, really. And it is to me as well. I really enjoy it. I wanted to share with you the reason that I started repairing sewing machines is because I wore my back out having too much fun in life, and I had to make a change in what I was doing. But so I'm still doing something that I like a lot. At first, it didn't seem as manly, but I don't feel that way anymore. I really enjoy it, and I love the people that make stuff. It's really an amazing art, and it takes patience. You have to think through things. There's just a lot of skills that you have to have, you know, to start and finish a project. But I really, you know, love to help anyone be able to finish the projects, and I would look forward to working with anyone. I wanted to talk just real quickly about lubricating a machine. I know on new machines, a lot of times they say you don't need any, but I still struggle with that. When you have metal to metal, you still need something on there. I get machines on a regular basis that some of the main parts of the machine are not functioning properly anymore because they didn't have any lubrication on them. And so I'm not saying I know more than the manufacturer does now.
So how often should you be doing that lubricating your machine or cleaning your machine or going through it? Is it like between every project, once a year, you don't have any, absolutely nothing else to do, you thought about it? Should that be a regular maintenance like you do with the car?
Yeah, I think about every 40 hours or 6 months.
Okay. So if you're sewing every day a lot, then you're gonna do it a whole lot sooner than every 6 months.
Exactly. And I say 6 months because it will dry up in some spots.
Okay.
And the 40 hours is a safe way to say, you know, that you're gonna put a little bit on there and keep it going.
Well, and I find when I do flannel or inky, I did a bunch of flannel quilts last summer, spring, and I try to do it every time I change the bobbin. It says if I do a whole bobbin,
Right.
and I try to clean it out and I'm surprised each time there's junk in there. I have a Janome,
Yeah.
but what I really find is it makes a difference what you're sewing on. material. If it's just a nice clean cotton, or if it's like flannel or minky or whatever, you need to clean it really.
You do, and I'm really glad that you pointed that out, because there's one more thing that's really important, that machines do come in pretty regular, and they're having some really weird symptoms. How many of you take your needle plate off on a regular basis? Do you ever find anything stuck in the feed dogs? And what do you think happens when that builds up? It won't lift up high enough to feed anymore. Your threads can have all kinds of issues. And so that's another one to check for. And you gotta remember, it only takes a 1/16 of an inch of lint buildup in that feed dog to throw off your sewing. And so you can just take your needle plate off and clean that out real quickly. Or you can say the machine's got all kinds of problems and bring it to me.
Which is where?
They want to know where you are.
I will.
Years ago, I worked at a Singer sewing machine. This was when the computerized machines were just coming out. And when we'd take a trade-in in, the first thing we did was take it apart, spray WD-40, and put it in all and everything else. So that's been my go-to. I keep my Viking, that's an old machine, but I have a computerized machine. What do you use as a lubricant on your computerized machine?
I use a synthetic oil. It's called Superlube. And you can get it in like a little 8-ounce bottle. It's a light machine oil, Superlube, and it's synthetic. And it's a lot safer than plastic and different things like that.
You're telling me if the oil's yellow, it's old.
Yes.
But you'd be surprised what a little bit of WD-40 does for sewing.
That's true. And WD-40 is a good thing to use.
And this is what we did all the time.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, it's super important to keep, all these different things working. And if you have an older machine, that possibly has a place that you could electrically get shocked. Please don't keep taking it up. And I learned this so much. But I'm afraid of electricity. So.
What's your feeling about air compressors and I have a really old Surger that when I take it in and then I pay them $150 and I take it home and they say, oh, it's all fixed. And I'm like, it sounds exactly the same. It sounds dry. And it says do not oil. But I take that thing out in the garage, I take it apart, I take the air compressor, I blow all the garbage out of it, and then I just oil the heck out of it because I feel like it's an old machine.
Yeah.
It's gonna last how long it's gonna last, but paying them to fix it's not. So are you okay with air compressor?
Absolutely.
Is it bad to use canned air because I know it has some moisture?
Yeah, no, I use air compressor to clean out a machine before I ever work on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just blow it over towards my neighbors. And
So those little long skinny things, you can just blow that in there and
yes,
somebody told me not to do that, so that's why I'm wondering.
no, I've never had a problem with it.
Sometimes I feel they want you to not maintain your machine so that you bring it. I'm like, I feel like they're the enemy sometimes.
I've heard you say don't use canned air on machines,
Huh.
but I use it all the time.
I use an air compressor that I just have
All I
sitting
need
right
to do
next
is
to me.
step in
And blow it all out there towards the neighbors. That's
I was just saying, so how do we know when like the timing is off? You know, we've done all these things.
Okay,
And how am I when am I gonna know it needs to go to the hospital?
okay, for the very first thing is, if you're, let's say you're going along doing a ham on some jeans, and your needle breaks. And then after that, it just isn't so right. Thread keeps punching up, maybe skipping stitches. And it's very possible when that happened, that your needle came down, it hit the hook in such a way that it caused things to move. And it's kind of a good thing that it does move, because, you know, maybe the machine wouldn't be any good anymore if some of that stuff didn't move. And so if the thread's really bunching up underneath, or if when you do a zigzag stitch, it's skipping some stitches, that's usually the best way to tell if your timing is messed up. Is you do a zigzag stitch, and if it's skipping, that will either tell you that your needle position's off, or the timing for the needle and hook is not correct anymore. But I can tell you that there's kind of a rule of thumb. If you bring your needle arm down as far as it will go, and then let it come up 2.5 millimeters, the hook should be right above the eye on the needle. The same distance, 2.5 millimeters. And so if you're way out of that range, and things aren't working. When I say way out of that range, I'm talking 1 millimeter. But that's what to look for in their timing. Some machines are a little different. Yeah.
When you talk about this, where would you find it for sure?
Well, like on a vintage machine, that's what your bobbin case snaps into. That is the hooks right there. So you'd move those two little arms, and that faceplate would pop out, and the hook's right there. But the best way to do it is just to remove that faceplate, take your bobbin case out, leave the hook in there, and just slowly turn it, and you'll be able to see exactly where it's going to hit your needle. Are we about out of time?
But you need to tell us your, she's got a question.
I feel like this is a silly question, but on my throat plate, where I'm assuming that the screws are, the screw is flat on the top, so there's no place to put my own screwdriver. How do I take that throat plate off?
If it's just flat on the top, it should just pop right out. So it should just come out. Now, now, on some of them, the one on the left side will be spring-loaded. And that's what holds it down, although they may look like screws. But like you said, they're flat on the top. So one side will pop up and you can just slip it out. I'm sorry.
So when I pop that out, do I just lift it up with the screwdriver on my finger?
Yeah, you can just use a little screwdriver. Mhm. And like I said, some of them will just completely pop out. Some of them on the right side, it pops out, and then you slide it out this way.
I couldn't underneath.
Yeah, an air compressor is really an ideal thing, but I'm not saying everybody needs to have compressors. Is there any other questions?
back to that abrasive tape you were talking about in the beginning,
Uh-huh.
Amazon has some like abrasive cord, would that be the same?
Yes.
as the tape?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah. Yeah, you just want to make sure it's small
little
enough,
tiny stuff.
yeah, to go through that, where the needle's going. And another thing to check for on your machine from time to time is, put it on zigzag and then make sure that it's going the same distance to the left as it is to the right and vice versa. And if it's not, something's gotten thrown off at some point. And then also the needle comes down and centers in the needle plate from front to back. And if it's not centering there, then again, there's something's off a little bit.
So can you adjust that if it's off? Can we adjust that?
You can after I show you on one that I get to bring today. Sorry.
Where do you work?
Out of my shop.
Just a random shop?
Where?
It's 1527 North,
Do you? Okay.
750 East,
What's the second part?
Shelley.
His shop is out the window.
Random
My
guy's
phone
shop
number is
if we ever.
208-227-3542. And you can also see me on Facebook,
Say it slow. Your phone
I
number.
know.
208-227-3542.
I got
What's your address again?
He'll tell you
Have a business
later.
name?
Bows and Roses.
Bose?
Mhm. Yes,
Do you do your phone number one more time?
208-227-3542.
3542.
Gordon Swanson.
3542. His name is Gordon Swanson.